we're moving along. Awesome.
Sure, we're on here. Okay. We're going to call the regular session of the Urban Renewal Commission here for May 4th, 2016. Call to order, please, and roll call.
Commissioner Pauly?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Holliday?
Here.
Commissioner Mengelberg? Here. Commissioner Van Haverbeek?
Here.
And Vice Chair Shaw?
Here. All right, before we do anything else here, we need to see if anybody has a conflict of interest for any items that are going to be here this evening. Steve does.
I have one.
Okay.
So are you declaring an actual conflict?
I have invested money into the Blaine's site.
Then I think you need to recuse yourself and leave the room during this discussion.
You can do that.
Okay.
Well, that brings up an interesting question, then I shall also.
What?
Well, I've invested in Blaine's site.
Is there a quorum that's invested in Blaine's site?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
Bill, am I correct in this?
so let me look at the city chart. I guess urban renewal may be governed by something different. This question's about presence may well be enough to have a quorum, but you may need a majority of the commission to actually make a decision. So,
There is.
What was it, the crowdfunding?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
there's,
crowdfunding, so it wasn't direct, but it was through crowdfunding.
7 members of the commission, right? And we only have 6 on, so we've got 2. So if there's 7 members,
There's still 4. There's still a
Still 4.
quorum.
there's still 4, so there's a quorum, yeah. So
Yeah,
you can certainly discuss it. I'll take a look to see if there's any concern about whether you can make a decision. Well, yeah, if you have 4.
Yeah.
You're fine, sorry.
But I think
He's a lawyer, not a
the
math.
ethics.
So the ethics, yes, if in fact you are an investor and you have a, will be benefited financially from a decision, you do have an actual conflict of interest, you can participate, you could stay in the room, I think, you know, you
Yeah.
don't have to leave the room, but you do have to
Yes,
step down off the dais.
Yes, dear. Really?
Technically, it is not.
Oh, please come to the mic. Sorry. Just want to make sure.
Come on, I'm not up.
Community sourced is technically not an investment. There is no, the investors will receive what they've given, they will receive that back, principal only, there's no interest involved, so there's, no stake in it, but,
Yeah. The question
No
is,
financial gain.
yeah, the question is whether there's a financial gain or not. So there's 2 different aspects to it. One is the actual conflict of interest. Will you in fact benefit or have a detriment financially? It sounds like no matter what happens, you won't have a financial impact on you. The next question, so, if that's the case, if there actually is no financial impact possible, then you don't have an actual conflict of interest. The next question is bias, and whether or not, because you have invested in it, you have shown that you are, you'd be biased and whatever decision you make would impact your decision.
All right, as long as you got a quorum, I'm going to remove myself here. Who's the vice chair here?
Well, you are, and you can still run. Wait, hear me out.
We haven't appointed
Hear me out. You can still run the meeting.
Okay.
You just will not be voting on this item, is what you're telling me.
All right.
Is that
Well,
correct?
Thank you.
Technically, the ethics rules say that you can't be in the room once you've declared an actual conflict. You have to leave the room and not participate in discussion.
You may not participate in the discussion. That could be correct, but it's a public meeting. I don't
Yeah,
necessarily
I
think you have to leave.
they can still stay in the room. You just can't participate.
All right, so we're going to carry on, and I will not participate, as will Steve. Okay?
Correct.
All right, citizen comments. Hearing none. Adoption of the agenda.
We're good.
We're good.
Second.
Okay? Nod your heads.
We all just
We're
nod
good.
our heads on
All
the
right,
agenda, yeah.
okay. General business, 4A, 16-251, tenant request for natural gas line installation at the train station. Mr. Eric Underwood, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. In February of this year, the Urban Renewal Commission signed over the lease to First City Central. Since that time, they've been preparing the building to open business, to go in operation. And as part of that due diligence, they've determined that they need a gas line to help them operate their business. There's not one currently connected to the train station. However, there is a main line that runs out on Washington Street in front of the building. So they're proposing to bring in a lateral from that main line to hook up to the building. This does fall under Section 6 of the lease agreement for additional improvements or alterations to the building, which must be approved by the Urban Renewal Commission or the landlord, as the lease agreement states, which is the Urban Renewal Commission. So I have Mr. Blaine Meyer here tonight to answer any questions about that connection of the gas line, but we are seeking your approval for that so they can open.
Okay, any comments here?
My question is, why does something as pedestrian as the connection of a gas line rise to the level of the Urban Renewal Commission? Why can't the official who is the administrator of the Urban Renewal Commission do that?
Because it's stated in the lease agreement that this is under the discretion solely by the Urban Renewal Commission, the landlord.
Look at future contracts to allow a little more flexibility.
Yeah, I mean,
You just
typically
never know
I
what-
wouldn't want you to bring, a gas line lease connection to the city commission. You would just take care of it, right?
Understood.
All right, anybody else? Comments? All right,
Move to approve.
Second.
call the roll.
It's been moved and approved, and the roll call. Commissioner Pauly,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Holliday.
I'm going to vote aye, but here we go.
Is it there?
It hasn't come up yet, but
Oh.
there we go. Aye.
Sorry about that. Commissioner Mangelberg. Aye. And then both Commissioner Shaw and Van Haverbeek are recusing themselves on this one, so we will go ahead and it passes.
All right, congratulations, Blaine. Moving on to 4B, 16-252, Retail First Program, proposed by Downtown Oregon City Association. Mr. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. This is a request from the Downtown Oregon City Association to modify our current grant program, the Urban Renewal Grant Program, the Adaptive Reuse Program, to establish a Retail First or right-size retail program. And I've invited Jonathan Stone, the Executive Director of that organization, to come give a brief presentation of the program and answer any questions.
Evening, Jonathan.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Stone, and I'm the Executive Director of the Downtown Oregon City Association. The Retail First idea was born from the acknowledgement that our retail, at least meaning what you might think of in terms of destination retail, let's say, like imagine Hood River, as just a picture in your minds, that we're not there. It's going to take some work to get there, but that there's a number of structural barriers in place that that we can work on with a number of different tools to help us get there sooner. And so that does a couple of things. It accelerates sort of property opportunity, but it also helps our existing retail cluster continue to grow and thrive. So what the program is a combination of incentives and technical assistance and sort of active project management on our part. And so we've committed to a year-long sort of initiative, so to speak, that we will be working with as funds allow, which we are actively fundraising for, designers, retail consultants, other types of technical consultants and the like that would be able to help property owners understand how they can make their properties more quote-unquote retail ready, or to help prospective business owners understand how they fit into the district and can successfully operate in the district. And then on top of that, we would pair this with an active recruitment campaign, a year-long campaign to recruit the types of retail that we want to see in Oregon City, with the hopes at the end of the year-long project that we've achieved new businesses and reduced our vacancy rate, especially in some of our problem properties that have spaces that are sort of perennially vacant or just require a lot of investment to be move-in ready. Just on the letter I included, there's some known structural issues in the district. One is that the sales density does not justify rents. And if you look at sort of a standard retail pro forma, rent should be about 10% of your sales total revenue, and that's a difficult number for our retailers to achieve at current rates. But in the interest of tax increment or growing property values, we want to see rents and property values rise. We need to be able to help that existing cluster continue to grow with the rents that are being sort of that they're feeling pressure to pay. And the other part is we don't have critical mass. You might think we have critical mass now with restaurants, and I would argue that's probably getting closer to the point. But with retail, the word shopping is not synonymous with downtown Oregon City, and so we want to get to that point where you might be able to say, I'm going shopping in downtown Oregon City, just making an afternoon of it. And then the other part is that we have a limited availability of smaller starter rents or spaces in desirable locations. And the thinking there is we are attracting indie retailers, but they're not finding spaces they can afford. And so a couple ways to address that is to, A, reduce rents, but we don't necessarily want to have to burden our property owners with that. But we can maybe create smaller spaces where they can get a foothold, invest in inventory, and then hopefully graduate into other spaces in the district. And then another symptom of the situation is that we're not attracting established operators. That meaning more than one-time business owners or second location business owners or second concept business owners. And so this is all part of that initiative over the next year to kind of look at each of those structural problems. And so where the Urban Renewal Commission comes in, you already have what has been a very successful adaptive reuse program. But the adaptive reuse program values change of use. And in some cases where a prudent investment to support retail, it may not necessarily be change of use. It might be change of decade, say from 1960s to 2016. It might be one large retail space that gets demised into 2 or 3 starter spaces. And so what we're requesting is take that successful adaptive reuse program, let's adjust the criteria just a little bit so that these kinds of projects or investments would score appropriately, given that we've identified it as an important investment that the district needs at this time. Are there any questions?
I do have one, Jonathan. Would the urban renewal funds be used primarily for the capital costs involved in demising and modifying this space, or would they also be requested for the technical assistance and other marketing aspects of the program that you outlined?
We anticipate the marketing costs to be fairly minimal, and we are reaching out to other agencies and to recruit additional technical assistance dollars. But at the end of the day, if the Urban Renewal Agency was willing to spend some amount of money from the grant program in support of the technical assistance, what you're helping is to actively massage projects so that they're the best projects they can be before you guys then fund physical improvements. So I'm not expecting more than physical improvements, but the program does hinge on the opportunity of technical assistance, which you're one place that we might be able to find those financial resources, but we are looking at other places for those resources too.
Jonathan, what's the buy-in of the property owners down there for this program?
My anticipation is that it would have a similar match requirement as existing programs. And what we would work with your team to understand, what is sort of timely in terms of an approval process, and what maybe is an appropriate investment. $10,000 just off the top of my head buys new floors. It helps with some electrical costs, and then, but if there's a match involved with that, then maybe that's the moving the wall and those kinds of things. So you're looking, most of these projects, I'm going to guess, are going to cost at least $20,000 on total project cost, but would likely be pushing $30,000 to $40,000.
So I guess the other part of that is, what are the property owners' thoughts of this program to begin with?
Well, with the existing spaces, we've been kind of providing sort of a ad hoc version of this, where we're working with. It's pretty dangerous. Apparently, with when you're a nonprofit, you can get AutoCAD for free, and so I've been actually with a couple of our property owners, have been measuring their spaces and helping them see how they can move their walls to be more retail ready, but then they're kind of looking towards the existing adaptive reuse program as a potential to fund some of those projects. And so what we're coming here to say is if we're sort of doing this on the fringes, let's make it a little bit more defined and more thought out, I guess.
Okay. Carol?
Yeah, I see this as, the grant programs have been down there for quite a while. But this is very intentional and targeted and specific. And not only is it giving them grant money and they're matching it, but it's also like, let's work together. Let's partner together and work on this together so you'll be successful, the district will be successful. So I think it's a big step, definitely in the right direction.
Commissioner Schmidt?
And if urban renewal and downtown and if we're all operating on the assumption that we all feel retail is a focus, then we all need to be operating under the same definition of what retail is. So so that we're all talking about the same thing. So I hope that's part of the dialogue, that when staff talks about retail, or urban renewal talks about retail, or the city commission talks about retail, and downtown talks about retail, that we're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah, traditionally, when I would think of retail, now granted I defined it earlier on as being kind of like that experience you might get in like Hood River, but it's, you can put a strict definition to it, but if it meets a need that we identify as sort of a business mix that downtown is seeking, or the adjacencies are good, then sometimes you have to kind of step back just a little bit and look at how you're engineering clustering in the district as well. But I would, venture that retail is an active streetscape. That there's something that somebody who's visiting our city would feel comfortable stepping into and get some sort of experience back.
Right. You're just running a little late here, Jonathan. Ding.
Yes. Well, I'm probably going to be the lone voice of not necessarily opposition, but there's a fine line between us supporting an urban renewal program and us being picking winners and losers, or attempting to be involved in individual businesses. I think part of starting a business is, like Blaine and others have done, you put together a business plan, you put together the financing to do it, and you find a location that meets all of those criteria. I think we're probably getting a little ahead of ourselves in downtown based on the other things that are going to start happening. So I don't know that I can support this coming out of urban renewal. I think we're doing a lot with urban renewal now. If it is strictly led, if it's strictly about interior remodel space, I can probably do that, but I wouldn't support anything beyond that as far as this program is concerned.
So, and what I described to you was the whole program that the Downtown Association is bringing to the table. But, you know, sort of the finite ask is adjust the criteria of the program so that some of these projects score more highly because their return on investment is similarly defensible as to some of the other adaptive reuse projects that you've funded. The technical assistance, I'm certainly open to, you know, if we have a future conversation about that, what and if any role the commission plays in that part of the program.
So I would like to add to that point too. Initially, when I was talking with Jonathan about this program at length, I was more inclined to stay with the capital on that issue, just because it's more it's seamless with our existing process and the review and all of that with the adaptive reuse. I think a technical assistance review would require different folks and a different sort of process. So in an effort of being efficient with our current programs as well as inviting a new one in, I think that would be the way to go. That's staff's opinion.
Another question would be, I know that the focus of the Main Street effort is downtown, but the urban renewal district extends beyond that up 7th Street, and there certainly are larger spaces that could benefit from demisement and perhaps get more tenants if the space was right-sized. So, you know, that's something for the commission to wrestle with as well. What are the boundaries of this program?
Well, I think, if we're just adjusting the criteria, the boundaries of the entire urban renewal district, but the kind of enhanced service aspect of it that we're bringing to the table is obviously limited to our downtown area that our bylaws restrict us to.
I don't know if we are prepared for a motion here tonight, or are you guys comfortable with?
I would say, did we just give staff a head nod to move forward with?
That's what we're asking is
Yeah.
is just approval to move forward to work on some criteria and the structure of the program, refine that, and bring that back for.
Let's do that, because I notice you have a motion for this, Eric, but I think we just need the head nod instead. Is that correct? All right, move ahead, Eric. Okay.
All right, great, thanks.
All right, so we
Thank you
are
very much.
going to.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. We need approval of the, future agenda items, anybody? No. Okay, city manager's report.
We have the minutes. I'm sorry. We have the minutes.
Move
in there.
through the minutes of March 16, 2016.
Okay,
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, city manager's report.
Thank you.
Have any updates for the
Urban Renewal Commission tonight?
Okay, good. Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
We're adjourned. Thank you.